Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. It's just a great honor for me to be here and share not only my love of pie making with you, but my love of, I'll try through this whole thing.
It's okay. That's what we do here.
Of this town that was so important to my family. My dad, well, my brother who is sitting over here, this is my brother Charles McDermott, and my cousin Patty Cooley.
Come in this way.
We had hi Franny. She took my class a few years back here. Our grandfather moved here in 1903 when Santa Barbara was a town of 6,000 people. And it's a very odd story, actually, because Charles Stephen McDermott was one married Honora O'Leary, and she was one of 4 sisters, the O'Leary sisters, and they lived in Chicago, near Chicago. And they all married morticians, which is really just the weirdest thing ever, to have this kind of family legacy of, you know, a family that felt that they needed to serve. And I think our parents, your mom, Frances McDermott Cooley, and my dad, our dad, Tom McDermott, who were Charles and Honora's 2 of their 4 children, and also our Uncle Morris. And my other cousins can't be here tonight, but of the 4 children, 1 passed away at 20. But the 3 of them all went into the family business. And to have that, you know, we all sort of grew up like 6 feet under. And, you know, who has that kind of experience of like after school, I'm gonna go up the back steps of the mortuary, past the room that, you know, you really don't want to know what's going on in there, and, you know, past the casket showroom.
Which we don't have anymore.
No, we don't have that anymore. And then, you know, past the arrangement room and up these stairs to the caretaker's apartment of Sadie and Frank Flynn, who were the kindest people in the world. And Sadie was my first baking mentor. And I would go there after school, and she would always she would have cookies. She taught me 3 things. She taught me how to knit, and she was very, very kind about if I dropped stitches or added too many stitches, you know, she was like, that's okay, you know, and she had this little Irish little, you know, not to worry, just keep going. She taught me to drink tea the Irish way, very strong with milk and sugar. And she taught me to bake without a recipe. She said, we just use what we have. We used a coffee cup from the cupboard above in that kitchen that was so dark. There were no windows in that kitchen. This tiny little long kitchen. And the spoon from the drawer. So we made cookies. Every time they were different, but I always remember it's like Rice Krispies went in there, cornflakes went in there, whatever went in there. And they were always, sometimes they worked out and sometimes they didn't. But what she taught me was that it didn't matter if you put your heart into it. My grandmother, who lived with us, this is on my mother's side, she was the pie maker in our family. And I was so honored to be present. But yeah, I always watched her make pies. And she never wrote down the recipes. She just knew how to do it. And I was so honored to be with her, to be present when she made her last pie. And that story I do talk about in the book. She'd had a little stroke. Her file cards were all ruffled, and you know, and she came in, and we didn't quite know exactly what to do. And I remember my brother was there at that time, and my mom, they were kind of discussing, what do we do about Gigi? You know, do we call a doctor? What do we do here? And for some unknown reason, I said to her, Gigi, can you make a pie? And she had this very, very no-nonsense way of doing things, and she just said, Well, yes. And I pulled out the stuff, and she got as far as she could through it, and got to the part where she was rolling out the dough, and turned to me and handed me the rolling pin. So, you know, I have so many memories of Santa Barbara, so many memories of the wonderful people that are here. I can look anywhere in this town. When I come into town, I see it with blinders on. I see my Santa Barbara. I see the town where our godparents, George Castagnola, Jack Ricard, Ida Ireland, who was married to the baker at Kelch's Bakery. Do you remember Kelch's Bakery?
Yeah.
Rena Castagnola. These were, you know, I grew up with your dad, who was police chief, at our dinner table, and Judge Ricard at the dinner table. We could do nothing. We could do nothing wrong because, you know, we would always get found out. So I came back. Truly, I think there was one night where I came home a little late, and my mom had already called Uncle Reg, and he put out an APB on me. You know, I had this little yellow Volkswagen bug, you know, and okay, I'm coming home, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had been with a girlfriend, you know, and the lights, and this was still when there was no underpass, or over, whatever it is, underpass, overpass here. This was still when we had the lights on 101. So they come up and they catch me right before like Chapala Street, you know, when I pull over. And this guy walks up and McDermott. Oh God, you know, what have I done now? I was just mortified, you know, says, you get home right now. You know? But this was the beauty of living in a small town still where everyone knew you. And there is that Santa Barbara here. That Santa Barbara exists here. That Santa Barbara exists with our children who are, that we have our generations of children that, I just met Rich Crockett's stepdaughter and her daughter. That's Rich Crockett, who came into our lives in the mortuary when I think I was 9. And he partnered with my dad. And to have this continuing of the many generations there are people here who have now gone to the same schools that I went to, the same schools that my brother went to. On Monday at a pie class, someone came into class who had been in our grandmother's 1st grade class at Peabody. And to have that experience. She also told me that she had sung in the talent show with my brother in 6th grade. They sang, "Oh, what a beautiful morning." Yes. And she also told me that she thinks she might have a movie of it because her dad made movies of everything. So, you know, I was like, oh my God, wouldn't that be something? So I find that when I met Jennifer, it was totally a moment that I think it was just kind of like kismet that we made. I had come down with my best friend from Washington to show my best friend Nancy my town. We flew in and we immediately drove all the way around the town that my dad loved so much. He was born on Bath Street in a house at home. Oh, these were great days then. And I took her all the way around town. She could not believe how beautiful it was. I took her past Peabody School where the sandbox is. This was my sandbox. You know, I took her to Henry's Beach. This was my rock. I took her to the Natural History Museum where Maureen O'Reilly and I shared a rock. Maureen and I went to Marymount when it was a girls' school and graduated from there. So this is my town. This is my legacy of being here and having family here. So going back for a moment, I know I'm kind of jumping around, but there's so many parts of this picture of, there's so many pieces of this pie. So, Charles Stephen McDermott, I come and I take Nancy to Our Lady of Sorrows, where our parents were married, where my father, that was where his service was when he died. And I walk out the door, and there's the hearse for McDermott Mortuary. I walked up to Israel, and I said, I'm Kate McDermott. And he said, oh, and I said, that's my mortuary. So I said, can I come and see where you are now? And he said, absolutely. And I came, and we had this wonderful conversation. And I felt like I was speaking with someone who understood that part of the pie. The pie is not just life and happiness, although that's there. There's sadness. There's challenges. There's pie crusts that don't quite make it all the time. There's fillings that boil over. There's some that just you say, oh, no, that one's staying over here. But that she understood so much that the picture, that the life is, it's not just life, it's also death. That all of this is part of the large picture. And I felt like I had met like a sister. If I knew that there was a Jennifer Parks as a grief counselor 40 years ago, it's like, this is really cool. I would be here doing this myself. I just make pie so that I can reach you in that way. And on the wall here is the original bill of sale for the mortuary. And it's dated 1906, April 12th, my birthday. And that just absolutely blew me away. Just not only to see my birthday, but to see my grandfather's signature, which I didn't ever get to meet him. Our grandparents, we were never able to meet. They passed away in the flu epidemic of 1921, 1922 here in town. Charles Stephen McDermott passed away on New Year's Eve, and his wife, Honora O'Leary McDermott, passed away a few hours later on New Year's Day. Yeah, so it was 1921, 1922, within hours. And they left 4 children. And those are the children that my dad, Tom, was the 3rd. Francis was the 2nd. That's Patty and Bill's mom. And Boris, who was the youngest. He was only 10 months old. And then our sister, their sister, older sister Loretta. Instead of breaking up this family, Honora's sister, who lived in Ventura, she had married another mortician. The Reardon Funeral Home in Ventura, that's us too. They had 5 children of their own. And instead of breaking up the family, they took all of the 4 children in and raised, now they have a family of 9 children, and raised them like we were, in the mortuary or next door to the mortuary, like 6 feet under. I think we had an unusual life growing up, but we had a very rich life of so many, of living with relatives, of parents that modeled for us on a daily basis how important it is to give, how important it is to be present for sadness, for joyous times, but to always be authentically there, authentically real. And I feel that the reason that I am able to do what I do is a direct line of this incredible legacy that was presented to me unknowing from Charles Stephen and Honora, my dad, Thomas Joseph McDermott, and my mom, Helen Louise Jackson McDermott. And they modeled every day for us. My dad, when he passed away, at the end, when the funeral was over, when the service was over, they announced, come to the house. People who feel, come to the house. There'll be, a gathering of people who are close and feel family. We had no idea how many people were going to show up. Our latest sorrows was packed. And people came to our house after. People that we didn't even know, and said, your dad was my best friend. And that included I remember the guy, does anybody remember Lou Rose? Mm-hmm. And there was a shoe shine guy there? Mm-hmm. He came and he said, your dad was my best friend. When I didn't have any money, your dad gave me everything in his pockets. That's what we grew up with. That is what we need in our world, I think. And I know I get emotional about this, but that is the picture of the whole pie. I make pie so I can give it away. I have never sold a pie in my life, I never will. But if you come to my house, I will give you a pie. I wrote this book because I love to teach. I learned teaching from my mother. I learned teaching from my grandmother. Patty is a teacher. My brother is a teacher. We had 2 careers in our family. It seemed like we were teachers and musicians, or we were funeral directors. There wasn't much, come on in and have some pie. There wasn't much in between. And I forgot what I was going to say next. That's right, they're all giving professions. So I wrote this book because I love to teach, but I can't not everyone can come to my class, and I can't come to everyone. So I wrote this book so that I could come to you in your kitchens and share with you how easy and joyous it is to make pie. When they say those words, easy as pie, people say, all this past month, my book was chosen as the inaugural book for the Food 52 Community Cookbook Club. Food 52 is a pretty big deal. And people who have never baked pie started baking from the book and said, I can't believe I made pie. I can't believe I made this crust. I can't believe this. My class is in that book. My heart is in that book. My parents are in that book. So that's kind of what I do. The rest of my life, it's pretty quiet. I'm either out talking to people and teaching, or I really have a pretty contemplative life. I live in a little cottage on the Olympic Peninsula with my dog, and my son is in and out sometimes, and his fiance is in and out sometimes, and it's a pretty simple life. But I couldn't have asked for a more creative or wonderful life. My challenges of those times when you feel like, how can I possibly get through this? Couldn't there have been an easier way to have learned this? Apparently not. You wouldn't want my life, I wouldn't give it to you. Because I wouldn't want yours and you would not give it to me. Our lives are unique, just like every pie that is made. They are perfectly imperfect.
I met Kate when she walked into the mortuary, and I couldn't believe that I had this direct connection to Tom McDermott because I had heard his stories for years. Rich Crockett is my best friend's stepdad, and she is the reason I'm here today. but Rich would talk about Francis Cooley and the police chief and, you know, and I could sort of look back to that time and even just, what is that, 50 years ago, everyone knew who the mortician was. So when there was a death, they would say, oh, call Mr. McDermott or call Mr. Crockett. That's who you called, and everything was better because you knew who that guy was.
And believe me, my dad had that phone right by the bed.
It's
And
always
when
right
it
by
was
the bed.
there, it's 24/7, and someone in this field, it's 24/7. When the phone rings, you are present.
But it was amazing. When she walked in, I was like, oh, I'm so glad you're here, because now I can connect all the dots and see who everybody was, and it was just so sort of wonderful and fun to be able to be part of this legacy. I got here indirectly, but it is the most rewarding, most completing work I have ever done, and all so much for coming. Kate so graciously agreed to come and do a book signing here because, of course, her dad is Tom McDermott, who started this mortuary.